Mince pies, turkeys, suckling pig.
Don't forget the chocolate pot roast with this smasher, with piss smasher, with with this episode of the Retro Rewind podcast.
Reflux capacitor, fluxing, crew to stations, scanning for McKee's Christmas Carol, 1983. Prepare to rewind in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, Rewinders and new listeners, to the Retro Rewind podcast, where we take a fresh look at movies and games from 15 or more years ago. I'm your captain of the pod, Francisco Ruiz, and I'm joined by your XO and mine, Paul, the ghost of Christmas present powers.
Oh boy, we're ready, Captain.
Great, Mickey. Also, for this discussion of the film Mickey's Christmas Carol, we welcome back aboard Terminator of Pests, Lover of Burgers, and Ghost of Christmas Future, Wardale Dale White. Welcome back, Dale.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks for being here. But not only do we have the future spirit to discuss this Disney short, we also have our own ship's yeoman and the ghost of Christmas past, Ashley Cronenbitter. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for having me back.
Of course. Welcome back.
If we're all ghosts, are you Jacob Marley?
No, I'm Scrooge.
Oh, thanks
Suckling
for
pig.
So you're being haunted right now. Oh, goodness. Boo.
We just have to change your mind and your heart.
Yeah, that's something like that. Now that you have a quick flyby of who we are, Paul, can you give us a quick overview of production specs for Mickey's Christmas Carol?
All right. Disney's A Christmas Carol came out in the year 2009.
Paul, you know that's not the one I'm talking about.
It's Disney. It's Christmas
I said
Carol.
Mickey, not Disney.
Close enough. Anyway, all right, fine. Mickey's Christmas Carol was released December 16th in 1983 and runs 26 minutes and is rated G. Directed by Bernie Mittenson and written by
Mittenson
Bernie.
or Mattinson?
That too. Depends on what country you're from. And
big.
Yeah.
Bernie
It was
Mattinson.
also written by Tony Marino. It's just reminded me of
Dan Marino. Laces out.
Yeah. Okay, lead stars being Alan Young. These are voice stars, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Alan Young, Wayne Allwine, Hal Smith, and the music was composed by Irwin Coastal. You ready for the box office trivia game?
I am. Please tell me there's box office trivia.
Unfortunately, both the budget and the box office intake cannot be substantiated since precise records were not kept after Mad Dog Tannen shot a newspaper editor who printed an unfavorable story about him. But I did find one website that claimed that Mickey's Christmas Carol made over $18 million in rentals alone. So,
well, I will, you know what? I will say, since we're covering it on the podcast, this was voted up by the listeners in general, that it probably has some lasting impact. So I'm going to give it the good old. There you go. So we'll assume it made some sort of ad money or what have you. But thank you for those factoids, Paul. And let's see if any of them factor into our memory mind meld or our subsequent roundtable discussion, which we'll get into once Alice has located our target film.
Alert, alert. Approaching target. Spoilers incoming. Establishing analysis vector.
Good morning, Mr. Scrooge.
Look who's coming for Christmas. All your favorite Disney characters.
Yes, sir.
Yup, that's me. In a merry new featurette.
What's so merry about it?
Mickey's Christmas Carol. Plus,
Do they want us now?
The Rescuers. Walt Disney Productions' free-falling, side-splitting, full-length animated adventure. Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Bail out. Bail out.
And The Rescuers. Rated G. Coming for the holidays to a theater near you.
It'll be interesting to see if we need to bail out of this movie or short, or if it's there's nothing in need of rescuing about it. But regardless, that commercial definitely brings back some memories about Mickey's Christmas Carol and apparently the rescuers. But to give you some context for the things we collectively remembered most before our rewatch, here is our memory mind meld synopsis for Mickey's Christmas Carol. For something called Mickey's Christmas Carol, there isn't much of Mickey Mouse. Scrooge McDuck is only here because of his namesake, and Scrooge doesn't want to give away his rightfully hard-earned money and is annoyed that Mickey wants to have Christmas off. Four ghosts, if you count Goofy, convince Scrooge McDuck to become a socialist. Oh my gosh, including Tinkerbell is Ghost of the Past. The Disney Jolly Green Giant from Taylor and the Giant is the Ghost of Christmas, the Ghost of the Present, and cigar-smoking Peter Pete from Goof Troop is the Ghost of the Future. Scrooge is a changed duck after his fateful meeting with these spirits, throwing coins at everyone and brings turkey to Mickey's family, saving Tiny Tim. Mickey Mouse becomes a new partner in a business that's about to take a nosedive in finances. Is this a good thing? We don't know. The movie ends before we find out. Almost all of that was accurate, except Tinkerbell is not in this. So this movie, these memories were decepted. Who would have thought Tinkerbell was in this film? So strange.
I wonder.
But based on those memories, as flawed as they were, what rating did they lead you to predict for this film before rewatching it? Classic, nostalgic, or tragic? Let's start with Dale.
Classic.
Classic for Dale and Ashley.
Classic.
Classic as well. Paul, what was your prediction?
Nostalgic.
Nostalgic, and my prediction was classic along with Dale and Ashley. It'll be interesting to see though if those predictions pan out. I mean, sometimes we flip-flop, sometimes they stay the same. We'll find out. But first, let's get into our discussion of this second movie in our Winter Miss 2020 season, Mickey's Christmas Carol. Let's spin up our
Best three.
It'll actually be best two this time. And let's start with Ashley. What's one thing you liked about Mickey's Christmas Carol?
Okay. So one thing that I really liked about this film is I loved the storybook intro and outro to the film. I just loved the music that accompanied it and just how it looked like a classic storybook and how the animation shifted once the credits started into the world that we were introduced to. It was just very charming, and I think it was a great way to connect it to the original Christmas Carol. It was just a nice timed transition, and it was it just stays with me. I remember it from childhood because we had a copy of this on VHS that we would watch and watch and watch and watch, and the song stayed with me, but the credits, they're just so charming because it's a storybook unfolding, kind of setting the tone for the whole film.
Totally. I will say though,
the music was boring, but that's
know what? And I enjoyed. I liked the like the sketches and stuff of the characters. Those were beautiful. I'd love seeing that as well. And yeah, the storybook elements to it for sure. Dale, what was something you liked? Was it that storybook texture, since this was an adaptation of a book, or was something else? Did something else make your one of your likes?
I love the animation chiefly.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I like the sequence where you see Scrooge walking to his house, street, then later the future with Pete, the fire,
in the grave,
that's
well, it's you, Ebenezer, and all this. So, and I love the animation in general. It was fun to, as Ashley was saying, the way it opens up like a book, you see the characters unfold, but I love the those parts. The Scrooge walking to the house and the Pete sequence chiefly.
Awesome.
That actually flows into one of what I put for my is
really,
I
Paul?
put down creativity, which included like the story, like how it's like on parchment paper at the beginning.
Yeah, this movie is so creative. It's like they just came up whole cloth with this whole story and concept. Wow, it's so
not
original.
Like that. Oh, no. there is a saying in writing, when writing a story, that you can tell, then they use A Christmas Story as an example, is that you can tell a Christmas story. It's not the story that you tell, it's how you tell that story.
That's fair.
So,
that's fair. Yeah, okay. All right.
It's been redone. All right. So
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Another creative part was like when Willie the Giant in the present, where they bend reality as he's bending houses and lifting them up, and he takes the lamp and turns it into a flashlight.
Yes.
That kind of stuff.
It's called a torch, Paul. We're in Britain.
All right, you're in
torch.
England. Yes. But okay, which hadn't even been invented in that year, but if you want to get technical. But I thought it was a lot of creative fun with it.
Yeah. And you know what? That somewhat segues into the thing I liked, which was because of the creativity and the way they were able to sort of mold or actually really shrink down the Dickens story to 26 minutes or however long it was. It did not. It seemed like if you had that much, it just had to be paced really fast and there'd be no beats for drama or comedy. But for me, there were actually like a couple laugh out loud moments for me, which I was like, oh, wow. I mean, I was really surprised that I was like heartily laughing at there's that moment where the giant is peeking, where Scrooge opens his bed blind. What are they called? The curtains on his bed, yeah, and it's the big eye, and I just had totally forgot about it, totally laughed at that. And also when after Scrooge is changed and he's like, I'm not too late, and he goes all the way down the stairs and he comes back up, says, I can't go out like this, and he gets his cane and he's like, perfect. That was just really I don't know, that type of humor just really gave me a lot of mirth. So I was very surprised by that and delighted. So that was something I liked. Let's now, by the way, since this was 26 minutes, well, that's like, I think our time to beat for this podcast. So we're going to go. Let's go back.
Oh, so we have 5 minutes. Okay.
Dang it. Let's go back to Ashley. What's something else we're to classic makers now. What's the thing you loved most? I know that you have a lot to pick from. You liked a lot about this, but if you had to pick one thing, what you love most about Mickey's Christmas Carol?
Well, it actually ties in with much of what you just said about having genuine laugh out loud moments. And for me, my classic maker is actually Scrooge McDuck himself as really? Ebenezer Scrooge, because I just thought Alan Young handled this performance so well. And this was before DuckTales was even really a thing. And this was one of the first Disney properties I ever saw, because we had a copy of this on VHS in my childhood, and it was one of the first things I ever got to see. And honestly, some of the dialogue that Alan Young had just made me like laugh out loud. There was this one line he said to his nephew Fred, Donald Duck, and he said, "Are you daft, man?" And just the way that he delivered it, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. And then a little later on, where he's being visited by the first spirit, and the first spirit says, "Scrooge, it's time to go." And Scrooge rolls back over, shuts the curtains, and he says, "Then go." And just the way it's delivered, I just can't help but laugh at it. Exactly. He was just such a scene stealer, and I really enjoyed his performance in the film.
So
all that is very good.
So you know what? First, let me say, I have two things to say. First, as I was reading through the trivia, this didn't make the trivia question coming up later, but it turns out that Disney wasn't going to have Alan Young do this part. Even though he did the record, the LP version of Scrooge, he was Scrooge for that, they weren't going to cast him for this because they thought he wouldn't want to do TV again because he had been Mr. Ed for so long and all that.
Then he moved on to movies.
And he moved on to movies? Really? I don't know what movies he was in. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Time Machine.
Oh, okay. Fine. Anyway, but he heard through a friend that was auditioning that they were going for this. He's like, oh, well, I want to audition for that. And so he ended up, of course, being Scrooge. Because, I mean, how could anyone but Alan Young be Scrooge?
I know, right?
Right?
He's so good.
Sorry.
Tell that to the David Tennant.
I
fans.
know. Sorry, 10th Doctor, but Alan Young is where it's at. Regardless, that's so that's the first thing. Second thing, that pretty much goes right into my classic maker as well, Ashley. And it wasn't only Alan Young. I mean, it wasn't really the voice cast so much as I thought it was amazing how Disney took their existing IP characters and seemed to seamlessly fit them in. The only one that was a little odd was Goofy, but I thought why was Goofy Marley? I mean, Pete is a menacing guy. It makes sense. He's the Ghost of Christmas Future. Jiminy Cricket makes sense as present. The Giant kind of makes sense as the Ghost of Christmas Present because I think in most tellings he seems to be Giant. Yeah, exactly. And Scrooge McDuck, Ebenezer Scrooge. I mean, that's part and parcel.
Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Mickey
you have to have Goofy and Donald be a main character,
and that's fine. And that Donald, the nephew of Scrooge. I mean, it's just perfect in so many ways.
How dare you, sir? Goofy is amazing as transparent Ghost Marley.
I'm not saying he's not good. I just don't see Goofy as a guy that's going to steal from widows and orphans. That's the only thing.
If he's told to.
I guess that's a good point. He is kind of very is affable? Affable was not suggestible.
How about
suggestible?
Gullible,
yeah, okay. All right, so that's fair. But I just think I almost
didn't realize we were in negatives.
In what?
In negatives.
No, we're not. We're not in negatives. I'm just calling out one thing that I thought didn't quite fit with my classic maker, which on the whole,
it's a little early for that, Francisco.
I know. Can you let me?
You can't help it. It's Disney.
Anyway, I really thought it was amazing how they fit in their existing characters from past Disney films into this Mickey's Christmas Carol. So. I like Disney though. I like this part of Disney. I don't like Disney in general, I guess. I like this aspect of this Disney film. Regardless, we have other people here that want to talk. Dale, what was your classic maker for Mickey's Christmas Carol?
Well, it would be Alan Young, like Ashley said earlier.
Nice.
But when I was a kid, I used to watch him as Wilbur and Mr. Ed.
Oh yeah.
And also I think before he was Scrooge McDuck, he was also this robot on Battle of the Planets.
Oh cool. I didn't know that.
And he did other voices in the series.
Mm-hmm.
I was already aware of who he was, but I wouldn't know until later that he did that Battle of the Planets. But he's been Scrooge since the 70s. So to hear him in this format, in this movie, it was just. He played the part superbly.
Totally, absolutely.
He was my favorite part of it. But I do have one side note.
Okay, go for it.
Do you realize that I can't remember the guy's name, Clarence something. He got the original
Ducky
voice
Nash.
of Donald Duck.
Yeah. This is his last role, yeah.
This Clarence Nash. It was his last endeavor as Donald Duck.
And
that's one I want to give that an honorable mention.
Good job.
Alan Young is my classic maker.
Awesome. Good pick. So that's like essentially 3. Alan Young is awesome as Scrooge, and Scrooge is awesome in this film. Paul, what's awesome about this film for you?
Mine actually goes right along with you, Captain, and that is the variety of the cast of characters.
Except for Goofy, right?
No, I love Goofy.
I know.
Kidding me? But what I like doing, it's like a Where's Waldo. Every time there's like a crowd scene, it's like, who can you pick out, and who do you recognize him from? Like,
going back to Goofy, apparently I have just a bone to pick with
My
Goofy.
goodness, you are obsessed with him.
He was Santa when you see Scrooge coming in at the very beginning. There's I think
that was the
Samaritan's Army.
That was the big bad wolf and the three little pigs ringing the bell, raising money.
And then the two little wolves, two of the three little wolves were running by.
All right, fine. That could be. Maybe I don't know if I want to go back and see this again. We'll find out later.
Watched it
but
twice in a row.
Oh my word! That's because you didn't have a young Indiana Jones to watch.
It's a good thing, maybe, for
Very
Ashley.
good.
Anyway, so okay, that totally makes sense, Paul. All right. So, I side railed you. Continue, Paul.
No, I would enjoy seeing the cast of characters of other Disney films.
Oh,
there.
I thought I just kept going on Goofy, and I didn't let you finish.
But you did forget something.
Oh. How did you, Paul? Wow, you're exactly right. I did forget something, man. I'm glad. See, this is why you need an awesome co-host, EXO, if you are, a captain of a ship, because
you're Jacob Marley.
Sometimes you forget something, and that would be the Cellcast. Jacob and Drew review animated movies and TV shows, discussing what they appreciate about the medium in whatever form it takes, whether it is a traditional hand-drawn animated movie, a claymation short, or a 3D CGI series. Check out some animated reviews when you subscribe to The Cellcast at thecellcast.podbean.com. And don't forget, Cell is spelled with one L at thecellcast.podbean.com.
That's great, Francisco. Did the Cellcast bribe you with that since they're in chat?
No, they're part of the
earlier.
Christian Geek Central Network, though, and that's where a lot of these spots come from.
Oh, so
Yes.
Okay. So what does that have to do with A Mickey's Christmas Carol?
Really, Paul? I think you're a smart guy.
Oh.
I think you know.
You mean the animation cell? They review animated.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh,
See?
Did they review this?
I don't know.
Okay,
But
let's get on talking more with this. then.
All right,
Less
that's
than
fair. Yeah.
more of this.
Enough Cellcast. Let's get back to Mickey's Christmas Carol with some trivia for you guys.
Yeah.
Did you all realize that on the original 1975 LP record, so for those that don't know, I just learned this recently. LP means long play.
Yes.
EP means extended play. And
SP means short play.
I thought it was just single. Was it? Well, is there SPs? Okay, regardless.
I don't know. I'm just making things up.
Oh my gosh.
It could be.
But the LP record, which were these big black discs. A lot of you, I'm sure, know what records are. Anyways, it served
I went
as
to jail for having one.
it served as the inspiration for this film, and in that, the Ghost of Christmas Past was voiced by the person who voiced Merlin from The Sword and the Stone from 1963. I honestly forget. We've covered that in episode. I'll tell you right now. I mean, there will be no delay in me telling you that it was episode 123 of the podcast.
Wow, that was impressive.
Thank you.
I didn't sense any delay in that at all.
No, not at all. And the Ghost of Christmas Future was voiced by the woman who did the evil witch from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, a movie we will never cover on the Retro Rewind podcast.
So says he.
But if you can't let us cover Princess Bride, we're not going to cover Seven Dwarfs.
We shouldn't have covered Star Wars Holiday Special, and there we did.
Hey, I am still waiting for some of the movies that I nominated to get on the list.
Well, here we go. We're not to voting time, but you can nominate movies at retrorewindpodcast.com/vote. Go to the bottom of those voting tabulations, click on the comment, post comment, wherever it is, and you can nominate a movie, and we'll get to it eventually. Anyway, here's my trivia question to you guys. If you could cast any three Disney characters from any time, it could be like more modern, like now, or in the past, like Snow White, in the three roles of the three ghosts from Christmas Carol, which characters would they be?
Thank you for not replacing Goofy in that.
You're welcome, Paul. Paul, who would you choose?
Honestly, I've listened to the original 1975 LP, and it's interesting how similar and how different it is. And the voice of Merlin is so bad. I'm glad they replaced him because it doesn't sound like Merlin at all.
Gee, is it the same actors you know?
No, obviously not. If it is, his voice changed dramatically.
Oh, I figured it would have been. Why would they even say Merlin then?
Merlin is a great choice because he has the top hat. And if you've read the original A Christmas Carol, the Ghost of Christmas Past has that top thing because he's kind of like a candle, and they put him out with that top candle. Anyway, if I had to replace, I honestly would not replace the Ghost of Christmas Present because Willie the Giant from Fun and Fancy Free or Mickey's Beanstalk is such a lovable character to me. Yes. I would honestly not change him at all. And I love the replacement of Merlin, even though Merlin has the great hat to go with it with Jiminy Cricket, because it sounds like Jiminy Cricket.
It does.
But I would actually try to go with the somebody with a pointy hat. If I had to replace him, it would be interesting to get the Fantasia Sorcerer's Apprentice hat and maybe use the magician from that.
Who doesn't say anything.
Who doesn't say anything. Give him a voice. Or honestly, I was trying to see who else had like a pointy
You're still stuck on this one. Go. Is this the only one you're talking about, or are you going to go to the other ones?
Well, my goodness.
We got.
I was going to say Peter Pan with Tinkerbell. Have them both be there. And then that would be because he's the boy who never grew up, and it's all about the past.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
There could be some interesting dialogue there.
Yes.
If I had to, I think Pete did great with the future, but if I had to replace him, old school, I would go with Captain Hook.
Ooh, yeah.
New school, I would go with Jack Skellington.
Oh, okay. I could see that. He seems a bit too lovable, but okay, all right.
No, but put him in the hood and make him, and he has that menacing.
Not Mr. Oogly Boogly or whatever his name is?
No, that would be kind of cool too, but when Jack gets like dark and he has that sinister voice in it, he can go that route.
Okay, I don't remember. I've only seen that movie once. All right. So Dale, let's go with you next. Which three Disney characters would you pick to replace these, if any?
Let's try to keep it cartoony a little bit, and go with the three fairy godmothers from Sleeping Beauty.
Oh, okay.
I like their colors, their banter, I think it would be funny to have them do their little arguing, showing Scrooge his past or whatever.
Oh, okay.
I just think it'd be fun.
So those three would be the Ghost of Christmas Past?
I'm not sure how you do it. Yes. For present, I was thinking maybe King Neptune from Little Mermaid.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. The white beard.
I'm not sure how, being he's a merman, but I'm sure there's a way you can get around it.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, his Triton can change legs.
But then but now for future, I would switch it up.
Ooh. And it would be
Cruella de Vil.
Ooh. Oh. Okay. I could see that. Nice.
But of course, you wouldn't know it until she scratched that tombstone with that match. Well, she wouldn't have an either. But I would get Jane Lynch to voice her.
Oh, that would be good.
I think that would be. So that would be my pick for the past, present, future.
Awesome. And that leaves Ashley. Which characters would you change?
Goodness. I had a replacement for all of them.
Good.
Yes. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so I had a replacement for all of them, and I actually took cadence from how they were originally described by Dickens. And I felt like the spirits that we got, with the exception of Willie the Giant as the Ghost of Christmas Present, they totally did not fit at all. only because the ghost of Christmas Past is supposed to be childlike and jovial. And I feel like they did a really good job of depicting the character in the Jim Carrey Christmas Carol, but they did a lousy job, Jiminy Cricket. Even though he's with someone who's very childlike in the character of Pinocchio, he is not that way.
Yeah.
So it's funny that we were kind of mentioning Peter Pan. He was one of the lists. He was one person on my list that I had, but I ultimately did go with Pinocchio because he is very childlike, because he is a child himself. He's learning so much and he has to go through so much, and he definitely inspires a lot of childlike wonder through him. As far as...
Wait, wooden Pinocchio or real boy Pinocchio?
Not real boy Pinocchio, wooden
good.
puppet Pinocchio.
Okay, you may continue then.
Because he's still a work in progress, but he sees the world with this new wonder because he's this new creation. So I really thought he would be a good Ghost of Christmas Past. As far as the Ghost of Christmas Present goes, I feel like Willie was pretty good, but I would try to switch it up and go with a different Disney property. Something that would make you kind of like wonder, like, well, what made them ever decide to go with this? But I thought of a nice squishy giant in the character of Baymax from Big Hero 6. Just because he's so adorable and sweet.
Yes.
And he towers over people because he's this big inflatable guy, and I thought it would be really fun to cast him in that role.
I like it.
And I went way darker with the Ghost of Christmas Is Yet to Come, or the Ghost of Christmas Future. I had a conversation with my brother about this, and we both said the same thing at the same time, and it just like dropped my jaw, because this Disney property, it's usually not referred to at all, but I thought the Horned King from the Black Cauldron, you would just see his hand. He wouldn't even have to say a dang thing, because he really is a silent protagonist. He doesn't really say much, but just seeing the hand and maybe seeing the shadow of his face, it would kind of like fear inspire, because he's supposed to be the shadowy figure that kind of leads to that transition for Scrooge towards the end of the film. So I wanted to shake it up and make it just a little bit creepy.
All right, that settles it. We need to have Ashley back for Black Cauldron.
I've seen that movie.
I don't think I ever have.
I hope so.
Well, I don't think I ever have.
I've seen it, man.
Oh, man. It's on Disney Plus. Go check it out. It's in 4K right now.
Yeah, I'll get right to that someday.
All right.
Never.
Oh, hey, Francisco, since you like having this segment.
Oh, you saw Black Cauldron in the theater? Wow, you guys. Jeez.
I don't think I was alive yet.
Fair.
And since you like this segment so much, you want it to last longer, Francisco, what's your choice?
Well, you know, I'm honestly struggling with Ghost of Christmas Past. So I'm just gonna crib yours, Paul, and say Peter Pan. That makes a lot of sense. Especially with me thinking Tinkerbell was the Ghost of Christmas Past. I mean, someone here thought Tinkerbell was the Ghost of Christmas Past.
Guy with the hat. Yeah.
Your ears count as a hat too. Anyway,
these are real ears.
But for a Ghost of Christmas Present, I would have loved for a genie, Aladdin's genie, Robin Williams to have been.
That's good.
Because he could have done all these different things with that. I think that would have been fantastic.
You know, just to interrupt you, because that's what I do. I was thinking Heimlich from Bug's Life, because he's always eating the caterpillar, and he's like chubby and big, but what if he was like huge, taking up the whole house and everything?
With or without his little bitty wings.
Exactly. And then for gross Ghost of Christmas Future, I'm going even darker, I imagine, than
I don't know
Ashley.
If you can go darker. Except Chernobog.
I'd pick Frollo from the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I mean, he has the fire
kind of
already.
He's on my list.
There you go. Nice. So you're this close to having the right answer, Ashley. Unfortunately, you picked someone else. I don't know why.
My answer was better.
But those would be my three.
Great trivia, Francisco.
Thank you, Paul.
But I want to find out what memories our awesome rewinders had about Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Oh, sounds good. Kevin Joshua Burnham says it's a great adaptation, right beside the Muppet Christmas Carol. Man.
Oh, I took that to mean it's a great adaptation of the Muppets Christmas Carol. No.
Didn't this come out before a Muppets Christmas Carol?
Yes, it did. Okay. Yeah. Stephanie Russell says, hilariously, I watched it recently.
Oh, nice.
I was amazed at how many characters from different franchises they put in this. It was kind of an adorable homage to all their earlier work.
Very cool. Celeste Morris says the part where the doorknob turned into the Jacob Marley freaked me out as a little kid, and I had to turn it off. Honestly, haven't ever gone back and watched it all the way through.
Wow. That is a good transition. David Gardner says, it wasn't the doorknob, but Scrooge falling into the grave that creeped me out as a kid. Yeah, that's some good fire there.
Mm-hmm.
He goes on to say he went back to watch it, and it is now his second favorite rendition after Muppets.
Guys in your Muppets. Oh, golly sakes. Celeste and David's comments, pretty much, and my size, lead us right into the things that made us want to turn off Mickey's Christmas Carol. Like, yeah, get this off my TV. So it's time for our...
Worst 3.
Worst two. And since I'm the Disney hater, I guess I'll start. And that's, honestly, this is this is a very softball. I was sad
Disney,
it was,
so I don't like it.
No, I was sad it was over. I thought it was too short. I want to see more of these characters and more of this story. Like I could swear I remember seeing Scrooge going to Fred, Donald Duck, and like being like either looking back in the past and seeing them do their whole game thing that you see in other films, but like with Donald and like the nephews or something. I was seriously incepted that somehow. And then I just would have liked to see more. Everything was just so quick and just went by so fast. And they did a great job of that. I just would have liked to let this breathe a little bit more and enjoy this world with all these characters from Disney movies I actually tend to like. As I would have liked that. So that was my first dislike.
Because just like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, this is not a full movie.
Yeah, it's not a full movie. It's a short. Yeah. But it has a through line and characters and story beats that make sense together cohesively. Unlike
we'll talk about that a little
gosh. Let's go to Dale next. What's something you didn't like about Mickey? I was about to say Muppets. Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Well, Jiminy Cricket.
Oh. What? I like Jiminy.
Hey, no. Let his conscience be his guide here. Go ahead, Dale.
Y'all may have to help me out here because my problem with Jiminy Cricket was I felt like he kept taking stabs at or cheap shots at Scrooge sometimes with his lines or whatever. It just
I thought it was well written.
I didn't get it.
I thought you enjoyed looking down on the world.
At one point he was like, "That's it. That's stuff like had it all in my head. Can't think."
Was it the quote, if men were measured by their kindness, you'd be no bigger than a speck of dust?
Which he would know because he's so small. I thought it was great.
Something that or you're thinking more about your gold than that precious creature.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's true.
Yeah.
The way he
called them out.
Well, there's just some line. There's some I didn't appreciate it, so I don't.
Well, that's just the rest of the world not appreciating Scrooge.
Well, it just it's just something I didn't appreciate.
Okay, I mean that's for sometimes things just hit us in weird ways. It's like that really wasn't needed. Like, why would you have to make another Disney movie? Let's go to Ashley next for something you didn't like. I'm curious if this side of the list was as long as your like part. Nope. Okay.
No. So I said in the beginning that I had to nitpick a little bit to find things that I genuinely didn't like about the film. And in all honesty, something that y'all liked about this film was actually something that I disliked.
Oh, Bean Boozled time.
It will be a Bean Boozled time and we'll get there. But the thing that I disliked about this film is that there were such a variety of characters, and so many of them, they came from classic Disney entities, and well, they may have been relevant 37 plus years ago. It hasn't aged the greatest, and I had to keep looking at the characters and give them a second guess to try to figure out who some of them were. I I knew
You're
the Robin Hood.
uneducated, and you need to go back and watch the Disney library. That's not Disney's fault.
I know it was a way of them to pay tribute to their classic characters. I totally recognize that and respect that. But it was really hard for me to get into that, and I feel like some of the choices that they made with said characters in placing certain individuals in the different roles of the ghosts was really a bad take on their part as well.
Like Jiminy Cricket.
Jiminy Cricket, he was one of my dislikes. He's kind of
conscience.
goes along with that.
He's great.
In all honesty, I haven't liked Jiminy Cricket for a very, very long time. Pinocchio is one of my least favorite Disney movies.
Yes.
It is probably
Yes.
it's probably at the top of my least favorite Disney movies, and Jiminy Cricket is a big part of that. But honestly, when I was watching the movie, I'm like, okay, who is this giant guy? And I'm like, I've seen Mickey and the Beanstalk. I've seen that short. Because back in the day, Disney would bring a lot of their classic properties and air them in conjunction with a movie. And that's how I saw Mickey and the Beanstalk and other films like that. But I'm like, who is this guy? And it's like, okay, it's from this film Fun and Fancy Free from 1947. And I'm like, when I watched it with my grandparents, like they really appreciated it because it was a throwback to so many characters that they were exposed to. And like, I know who they were and I've seen them before, but I'm like, if you were to show this to your kids, you might have to explain or educate them, as Paul would say, about these classic Disney properties long before you introduce them to that. Otherwise, they're going to be like, who's that wolf guy? Who are these pigs? Hey, look, it's Huey, Dewey, and Louie. And then they cut away. They're there for like 3 seconds and then they're gone. And then people will be like, well, why is Scrooge hitting on Donald's girl?
Yeah, that was weird. That was.
So there were
But at least she's in there.
Yeah, at least she's there. And she, at least, unlike Minnie, has some dialogue. But just the variety of characters, it was good, but I feel like some of them were just a little misplaced.
Yeah, I could see that. I could totally see that.
I that's so weird because I completely disagree with you, Ashley, and completely agree with you because that's also my dislike. But
what? Wait,
I will
what?
take time.
I completely agree and completely disagree.
And here's why. Because I enjoy, like I said, it's one of my likes. But I thought they had too many characters from single properties. For example, you not only had the big bad wolf, but you also had the 3 little pigs and 2 of the 3 little wolves. I would have liked, unlike Ashley, to see more of their characters because they have so many, and even the more obscure ones, the better. Because I just love trying to find and figure out which ones those are. I mean, I absolutely loved Mr. Toad as
Fizzywig?
Yeah, Fezziwig. Because in the, if you ever watch The Wind in the Willows or Ichabod and Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, he is fun loving. He's all about that jolliness that Fezziwig is. And I also loved Rat and Mole as the people collecting money. I thought they did such great jobs in that.
They did fine. I would have liked other people in that role, though. They didn't make sense to me.
Oh, it made sense to me, and I thought the voices were pretty spot on. So that was good. But yeah, I would have liked to seen more variety from their variety of characters.
That's fair. Okay, I could see that. And, you know, if they had more time, like was my dislike, they would have been able to do that. But
I kind of agree with you.
All right. Well, that's all our dislikes, but now it's not. Those aren't the things we hated the most about this. Dale, what was your tragic maker for this retelling of A Christmas Carol?
One of your dislikes is my tragic maker.
Oh, okay. That was too short?
I wanted to see more. I felt like it was just too quick.
Oh, yeah.
It's just you're here, you're there, and I felt like I wanted to see more Donald Duck as Fred, being that this was the last time you would hear Nash as Donald Duck. I would like to hear see more, but we didn't get that. And Fred is such an important character in this story. I would like to see that. But I understand it's like 20 or 25 minutes, but they could have expanded it to where it could be where they
full motion
you get
picture.
More out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know about a full motion picture, but they could have expanded it to where you could get more of a story out of it. than just.
Real quick, though, I want to say it's interesting that you bring just the same, essentially very similar to my dislike was your Tragic Maker. And I want to say, you brought up, like Paul was saying, this could be a full, why not make this a full motion picture? And I'm thinking, well, you know what's funny? That apparently this came out with The Rescuers when The Rescuers was re-released in the 80s. And from what I remember of The Rescuers, the animation, the color and the overall motion and everything about this film looks like 10 times better than The Rescuers. So yeah, why not just invest in making this your main feature and maybe a little short Rescuers? Because I would have much rather have sat through a film that looks, even though it had very similar, I would say color grading and stuff to what you see in some of the like TV shows of like DuckTales and stuff, where there aren't a lot of shading or tints or shading or light spots on characters. They did have some at some of the darker scenes, but overall, even with that, I don't know, it's just overall really, really looking good. A good looking short, but I guess that's neither here nor there. Let's go to Paul next. I have, I'm using my X-Men psychic powers to foresee that somehow you have something related to what Dale just said.
Yeah, mine is actually the same thing, because I thought, like Francisco, I thought it was too short. And I do think that there is, it being short does have its positives. Like if you want a quick watch of a Christmas Carol, this is a good one to watch. And I think a lot of people like it because it's so short. There is some positivity in the brevity, like how it goes from, oh, that means Tiny Tim will, and then it cuts to him like going right into the Ghost of the Press.
Yeah, those are great.
It has some good cuts.
Yes.
And the pacing is good. But yes, I would have liked to see this as a full feature, like Mickey's Mickey, Donald, and Goofy's Three Musketeers. That's like a full length thing, and they have like extra songs in it. One of the reasons why I think it's too short is because it's kind of hard to believe that Scrooge, who lived his whole life, being money, keeping it all to himself, he changes rather quickly at the end. It's kind of like, I think having it longer and played out to actually see that change more would have been better, but I'll let Ashley take over and talk more about.
Fair enough. Go for it, Ashley.
I was going to say, you took the words right out of my mouth, because Francisco's dislike in your Tragic Makers was mine as well. And I have my own reasons for feeling that way. I felt like it needed to be more fleshed out, because you look at different adaptations of A Christmas Carol, we have more depth to the ghosts, we have more depth to the side characters, and exploring Scrooge's past, seeing where he started off in the beginning of his career when he was having this romance with Belle, and then kind of his transition to the more dastardly miser that we see him in the beginning of the film. I feel like it was a hop, skip, and a jump. You blink and the movie is over. And while it can be great if this is a child's first introduction to A Christmas Carol, it's really great because it's a brief, it's a great introduction, because they're probably already familiar with the main Disney characters, whether you introduce them to DuckTales or Mickey Mouse cartoons and so on. But it's very brief. But as a woman in her 30s who enjoyed it very much as a child and still enjoys it now, it's too, everything just feels like you blink and you could miss something so quickly, because the transitions are cut very well. But I just think to the moment where we're with the ghost of Christmas Present, and it just goes straight to the graveyard, and you've got that puff of smoke, and it's from the cigar from the Ghost of Christmas Future. It's a great transition, but it happens so quickly. I feel like we don't get enough time with these characters and really explore who they are. And if you go back to the original source material, they are more fleshed out. There's more exploration with their characters. And I know you can't do that kind of exploration in 26 minutes. I don't know that it has to be fleshed out to a full, hour 26, like most of these Disney full, honestly, I think it could do well even by extending it ever so slightly and making it like a 42-minute, an hour long.
Like what you, like with ads, an hour on TV.
So it would be like 42, 44 minutes. Even by adding that, you'd extend it enough where there would be more definition and fleshing out the characters. because I enjoy them all and I wish we could spend more time with them, but 26 minutes, you blink and it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sad when it was over.
Oh.
So I watched it twice.
And it's still not enough.
Well, you know,
It's still not enough. I'll
guys,
probably go watch it again.
you know what would have helped with give it at least more time for the characters?
Please tell us in your Tragic Maker.
Wow, Paul. You know me too well. Is if they cut that opening song. Oh my gosh. That it might as well have just been stock Christmas music. There's nothing lasting about that song. I only kind of remember the part where they repeat at that Merry, Merry Christmas Day. That's like it. That is all. This is not helpful.
You're a Scrooge, Francisco.
Oh, wait. I feel something coming on.
It's like it wants to be joy to the world. It's like it's like, oh, I wish we could be joy to the world, but we can't be because we're a secular company. So this is not interesting or fun or memorable. I cannot remember it. I mean, I can't.
Oh, you don't remember? Here, let me play it for you so you can hear how it goes.
I feel like some of the songs in Muppets Christmas Carol, as much as I don't like Muppets Christmas Carol, were more lasting and more like, oh yeah, if I hear this on the radio, I know where it's from. Whereas this one, I'm like, what is this? Yeah, exactly, Ashley. So yeah, that's my Tragic Maker. It's just this opening song. That's not. I feel like it's not iconic at all. If you didn't have it there to play, Paul, I doubt you could sing it.
Merry, Merry Christmas.
That's all. That's all you can say.
Scrooge.
Yeah, Scrooge is in this. Ashley,
you're a Scrooge, Francisco.
You've seen this movie twice. I'm sure you know Scrooge is in. What, me? I'm not a Scrooge.
Yes, you are.
Nah.
Well, chat said you're more of a Grinch, so.
Oh my gosh.
That's Captain Grinch to you.
Grinch. Captain Grinch for short. Wow, guys. All right. Well, you know what? Now that we have all entered our targeting information into the firing computer, Alice, do you have a final rating for us?
Firing solution complete. Rating salvo at the ready. On your mark.
Alrighty, guys. We, you know what? Do we rate Mickey's Christmas Carol a classic? We'd recommend anyone go see this, whether or not they've seen it before. A nostalgic, if you remember watching it as a kid, definitely it's a good rewatch for a Christmas movie or a Christmas short. But if you've never seen it, there's probably other adaptations of the Christmas Carol that you might want to check out. Or a tragic, it's not worth anyone's time. If you liked it as a kid, you probably won't like it as an adult. And if you've never seen it, probably just stay away. So let's start with Dale this time. What was your final rating for Mickey's Christmas Carol? You predicted to be classic. Did it continue to be a classic for you?
What I'll say is that I love this movie, just all the picking I had with it. I love the weasels. Give me more of the weasels. There's something about the weasels.
Yeah. You know,
again, from Wind in the Willows.
And then there's the heartfelt moments, family, and but I give it a nostalgic.
Oh, really? Okay.
Switched it at the end.
Yeah.
There. Nice.
So was it
because things spicy and interesting? All right.
Because it was too short, or just
because there weren't enough weasels?
Just not enough weasels. Okay, that's fair. So you'd rather go and you'd say someone go and watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit instead.
Yeah, that would be about it.
Okay, that's totally fair. Let's go to Ashley next. So we got one nostalgic so far. Ashley, what's your final rating?
It's still a classic to me. I told you.
Tragic to you. I'm surprised, but okay.
CLASSIC.
TRAGI. Yeah, I can spell.
Francisco,
you don't have to spell it out.
You can't spell. I don't know how you became captain without being able to spell. CLASSIC.
You know, that explains a lot of the Thunder Road too.
Oh my gosh. Hey, bring up that old wound, Paul.
And here's,
all right, so
it's a classic because it is a wonderful introduction to A Christmas Carol because it takes the classic tale of Dickens, combines it with Disney. It's a bite-sized chunk to introduce to your family. If you have small kiddos, there's nothing really too scary in this adaptation.
No, yeah.
It's not going to be over their heads, and it is a bite-sized chunk, so it won't be too long to not hold their attention. And I love it just as much now as I did when I was a kid. I told you, I watched it twice. I'll probably watch it 2 more times at least in the holiday season.
Just so you can find all the flaws you missed the first 2 times.
Absolutely not. You should see my notes. The list of things I didn't like. I really had to go to the bottom of the barrel because there's not much there for me. I love it so much.
Okay.
Sorry.
Fine.
And watch all the other the Disney library stuff.
He can go watch
so
the
you can
Muppets
recognize the
Christmas Carol. Someone can go watch that on my behalf because haven't seen it and I'll keep it that way.
All right.
Oh,
all right.
wow.
Paul, your Disney fanboy numero uno, what was your final rating for Mickey's Christmas Carol?
I predicted nostalgic, but when it leaves you wanting more, I got to go classic.
You don't have to. You can go tragic. That's fine.
This time I am.
Come on, guys. Classic for Paul.
That's right.
All right, fine. You know what?
Come on aboard, Captain. The water's fine.
As much as I detest this decision, I'd have to rate it classic too, because it was, I definitely wanted more of it. And it was cool seeing all those characters that I remember loving. And Alan Young as Scrooge, that's hard to beat. Like, Dale, you had mentioned how hearing, I forget his name, the character who voiced Donald, how this was his last time he would have liked to hear more of him. What was his name? Aaron Nash?
Clarence Ducky Nash.
Clarence Ducky Nash
is what they called him. But yeah, Clarence Nash.
I know. I felt the same way whenever I play the DuckTales video game, HD remaster, and you get to hear Alan Young in his last performance as Scrooge. I think his last performance, period. And it's just like, oh, more story, because this feels like home. So yeah, I begrudgingly rate Mickey's Christmas Carol a classic. So according to the retro
side, Francisco, we have cookies.
The ears are dark.
Oh my gosh. According to the Retro Rewind podcast, we rate Mickey's Christmas Carol a disputed classic film. We'd recommend anyone go see it, whether or not they've seen it before. But enough Disney. Let's get back to our own time. Good old 20XX.
20XX?
Comsat online. Receiving incoming transmission.
Oh, look, there's Disney here too, Francisco.
Feels good to be back. Kind of. Mainly it does. But we wouldn't have been able to travel back to 1983 to begin with if it weren't for our amazing reflux capacitors, namely, part of me wants to do this like in a Christmas song, like Jared Holzhauer, Deborah Powers, Brian Keating, Patrick Hicks, LJ Lowry, Chris Cowan, the Feeling Film Podcast, Chris Owens and Geek Devotions, the Untold Podcast, Mrs. Lomax, James Kinnison, the Dapper Man, True of the Cellcast, Ashley Cronenbitter, the Pastor Dustin, Kennethan, and Redeemed Utaku, Ryan Lingle, and that's our Babo, and newest patron Josh Adams. In addition to 5 other awesome patrons as well. Thank you all so much for listening to that, because you funded that. That was your fault. No, but I really, really thank you so much for keeping the gigawatts coming, or I should say gigawatts coming. And if you want to help keep us flying for
what the heck is a gigawatt?
Oh, find out by listening to this show. If you want to help keep us flying for as little as $1 a month and get bonus content for your generosity, head over to retrorewindpodcast.com/support to help us grow via Patreon or Subscribestar.
This stream is sponsored by PaulJPowers.com.
Indeed.
And we want to thank our other supporters. Wow. And while we are thanking our supporters, we also want to give a big Christmas Ghost of Christmas present hug, that kind of big, to our subscribers on Twitch,
But what if you don't have the extra cash every month for Patreon or Subscribestar, but you still want to support us? You could buy our merch, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser, but even better than that is sharing your favorite episode of this podcast with a friend. I mean, maybe this one was your favorite episode. Whether you listen for the banter, the trivial tidbits, or the occasional insight, we would love more people to enjoy Retro Rewind podcasts for that same reason. So please be kind and share Retro Rewind. Goofy does not work as Marley, but regardless, RetroRewindPodcast.com/215 is the place to find timestamps for this episode, links to contact us, and links for voting on the movies you want us to review. But that's not the only place you can reach us. Paul, where else can people find the show and also yourself?
PaulJPowers.com. If you dig deep enough in there, you may find support for Goofy as Jacob Marley. But also, you find my social media links and the link to the Retro Rewind podcast. And if you're on social media like Facebook, Twitch, I don't even know what social media is now with all these new things coming up, like
Twitter, Instagram, things like that.
But if you find the big three, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, you can find the Retro Rewind podcast. We are Retro Rewind Pod. Feel free to talk to us and share anything you like or find funny that is 15 years older on there. And you can also join our Discord server by going to retrorewindpodcast.com/Discord. And also, I mentioned we are on Twitch. You can watch and chat with us live as we record this podcast, like these fine folks in the chat are doing right now. And apparently, Francisco creates pixel art, but I haven't seen him do that in a while, at least streaming that. But he does play retro video games, which you can check out at twitch.tv/retrorewindpod. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Twitch.tv/retrorewindpod, just in case you didn't hear me before. But if you want to find me, pauljpowers.com, go to pauljpowers.com.
Thank you, Paul, for being an awesome friend, awesome Bob Marley to my Ebenezer Scrooge, or Scrooge.
It's Jacob Marley.
Or what?
Bob Marley's the musician. No,
come
Captain,
on,
no
man.
cry.
Point is, you knew who I meant because you're awesome, Paul. So appreciate getting to do this show with you.
Oh, thank you. And likewise, I look forward to doing the show with you each and every time. And I'm so thankful and grateful for our guests for taking time to discuss Mickey's Christmas Carol with us. So let's go around alphabetically and start with Ashley. Please tell us how people can find you online. And is there anything you'd like to promote?
Nothing to promote at this time, but you can find me on both Instagram and Twitter at APK1186. I like to post on all things faith and fandom related.
Awesome. And Dale, we're also thankful and grateful for you coming on and joining our discussion. How can people find you online, and is there anything you like to promote?
There's nothing that I have to promote, but I do wish to thank y'all for having me on this podcast, and hope to do it again sometime.
Awesome. Woo-hoo. Thank you for being here. Both Dale and Ashley, so awesome getting to have you here. But not me. And Paul, I'm grateful for you too. But you know what, guys? As much as I love all of you, I don't love you guys the most or even appreciate you the most. Yeah, that is reserved for you. Yes, you listening right now. Scrooge, Jacob, Bob, Marley, if you're listening somehow, whether this is whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whether this is your first time listening to the show or you're a part of our Rad Rewinder community, we so appreciate that you spent time with us, and we pray you're more joyful now than when you first hit play. I have been and continue to be Francisco Ruiz. Find me on Twitter at FXRetro_ or on Instagram at FXRUIZX. And you can DM me in either of those places for Pixar commissions. If you're like, Pixar, what's this Pixar thing that they keep mentioning at the end of the show? Well, if you look at our show art for the past, I don't know, close to 100 episodes now, I think. We're getting up there. I mean, all the way back in Muppets Christmas Carol, that episode I was doing pixel art for the show. That art style that you see in like our banners or not our banners, but our show art on your podcast player, that is pixel art. So if you, it's
looks
like
pixelated.
It looks pixelated like old NES and SNES games. That's what that style is. But yeah, you can DM me for pixel art commissions there.
That's great, Francisco. But what does that have to do with Mickey's Christmas?
Oh my gosh, Paul, that's not the line.
Finally, we are honored to be part of the Christian Geek Central Network at, you guessed it, ChristianGeekCentral.com.
You can catch us at CGC or our website, but like a Pokemon, we gotta catch you all for Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, aka the Temple of 2020, our next episode of the Retro Rewind podcast.
Hold on to your potatoes.
Retro Rewind mission complete. Proceed to nav point Omega and return to base.
I wish I was joy to the world, but I can't be because I'm a secular company named Disney.
Wah, wah.